Hello, lads and lasses. It's Gizmo, and we're back with another episode of Kerbal Space Program 2. Now, in the last one, we did a explanation of stages. We launched into the upper atmosphere of Kerbin, and then we managed to get a orbit around Kerbin. Now, in this one, our objective is going to be the moon or bust. Basically, we just need to establish an orbit around the moon with an apoapsis less than 2400 and a periapsis greater than 60 kilometers. Now, the apoapsis is the largest point on trajectory, and the periapsis is the lowest point. Now, the other thing we have is buoyancy test. This just means that we need to land a pod in a body of water turbine. We'll eventually get to that. I'm not super worried about when we do it now or not. But we have a 266 science that we're going to use that we got from the last one. So we're just going to go ahead and use that now. So, orbital rocketry, which is going to be huge in getting us there. The moon landing, which is going to be huge when we're trying to land on the moon, and it gives us the large fuel tank. We're going to research that. Now, the other one that we need to do is we have reaction control systems. We can do monopropellant stuff. This is basically just like small trajectory movements if you're trying to like connect things together. Now, the other thing we have is small payloads. This is going to help with trying to attach things or trying to get, sorry. This is used for creating small things inside of your ship and then launching them, such as satellites, communication satellites. Then we've got specialized decoupling. Again, this one's actually good for launching parts, and this one's good for having parts away from you. This is a mini booster. It's a safety propel side-mounted booster from rocket during decoupling. Basically, once you decouple something, this just launches it away from your vehicle. We'll take it, because why not? Now, the next thing we need is definitely survivability, because we've had a lot of people that have not gotten back into orbit survived because of it. So, we grab struts just because we can, lights and utilities because we can. Let's see what else. Basic trusses, because again, can. And that'll be it for now. We've got 21 signs. So if we go back to mission control, it doesn't add anything just yet. So let's go ahead to the VAB, and we're going to set up our stages in a very specific way, just so we can make sure everything's covered. So first, we're going to start off with a pod. Single seat lander can is great if you're trying to land on the moon. It's not great if you're trying to do anything else. So we don't need it. It's got less of a mass. Well, actually, it does have less of a mass, but it's got less of an aerodynamic body to it. So we're just going to stick with this one just because it is aerodynamic. Click and drag, and then we're going to do our fuel canisters. This one is a lot larger. Let's see. Now, we're going to be creating this in stages. So we're going to go with our landings or our flyby, our safety stage, which is going to be this one. So what we want to do is attach a science to it. And then we also want to attach heat shield that we just got to the bottom of it. Now that's going to save our vehicle when it's coming into the planet. And then obviously we're going to attach the parachute as well. Now, you have to make sure that when you attach a science thing, you have to watch your science to, or your weight to parachute. Right? You're going to have 2.39 tons. You have to make sure that your parachute can handle that, because this has an impact tolerance. Everything here has an impact tolerance. So if you look at this, impact tolerance is 20 meters a second. So with one singular parachute, we might be able to make that. But you want to be careful about how much mass you're putting on, because your parachute can only slow it down to a certain amount. Now, if you need to, you can have side-mounted parachute. Have an MK16 or an MK16 radial. You also have an MK12 radial, just as a smaller version of it. If we wanted to, just if we were cautious, really wanted cautious, we could put one onto the back. Now, that'll give us a wonky liftoff and weird aerodynamic state, because we're going to have one thing on the back, so that off-puts the weight. And you can see, if you look at the center of mass, it's actually slightly shifted to the back, and you can watch it do that. Put something on. See the center of mass change, which is cool. Tells you where it is. Now, the center of thrust we don't have, just because thrust just... This is going to be the landing stage. This is where re-entry stage, I guess you should call it. This is the re-entry stage. We're going to go ahead and do a stack decoupler, or stack decoupler right there. And then we're going to have the next stage. Now this stage is going to be basically setting up small orbits. So we're already going to be in space. We're already going to be where we are. Just kind of need to change our orbit just a bit. And we're going to go with one of these, two of these. I want to do just one of these. We'll do just one of these, and then we'll go ahead and Terrier, because the Terrier, you can see, has a max thrust in a vacuum of 60. This has 260 and this has 215. But you can also see that we're going shift. So we can see. So max thrust, min thrust, and ISP. Now propellant uses T 0.004 T and S max. That's thrust a second. You can see this is 0.17, 0.017, 0.01. When it comes to T or thrust a second max, this is going to give us better because we're using fuel. Now, the next thing we want to do is set up the decoupler for that one. That way we can move on to the next stage. Now, the next stage is this is going to be the getting us out of orbit stage, or getting us. This one is going to be quite large. You have to watch that engineering report. Thrust to weight ratio is 0.413. Have to make sure we have less than 1. You have to be above. And the higher above 1 you are, the faster you're going to go in atmosphere. So we're going to put the older Reliant on this one, like so. Still at a 0.413 thrust to weight ratio. That's perfectly fine. Now the next thing we're going to do is decouplers. Side mount decouplers. Yeah. We're going to go ahead with an extended radial decoupler, because we want everything to be away from us. And we're actually going to go ahead and put 3 of them on. Now the reason we're doing 3 is just to give us that good thrust to weight. We go back to engines, grab this giant, it's a thumper, it's a solid fuel booster. We put this on here, like so. Now our thrust to weight ratio is at a 1.013. Now I don't like the way that's going. I actually want this to be on the ground, like so. And I want it to be the thing that's going to hold us up, right there. We're going to hold ourselves up from the... Now, our thrust to weight ratio is 1.684 right now. That means we are going to take off, and we'll be perfectly fine. Let's grab these small stabilizers, because the last time we didn't have stabilizers in our last video. It didn't work out so well. Gravity turn. Now, we're not landing on the moon, so I'm not going to go with gravity parts just yet. And we don't have electrical parts because we don't worry about that. Science, we should be fine with. Now, everything looks good. I think we're going to be perfectly fine with. I don't think we need a reactor. Yeah, I don't think we need a reaction. We should be good to go, and it should be good stages to get us. So this will be out of atmosphere. This will be... Yeah, to get us out of atmosphere, this will be when we are out of atmosphere, and then this stage is basically to make small corrections around the orbit. Go ahead and launch this one. Wait, hold on. I can't stop the countdown. I did not set these up correctly. Out of the back, we are getting enough thrust to get us out of here. My stages are not set up correctly, so we're going to set these up right now. Alright, we're at 100 meters a second. Start the gravity turn. It's so hard to start because we don't have enough control. Yeah, these are too small for what we have currently. We definitely need more, from what I can tell. It's unfortunate we're not going to be able to do the gravity turn until we break off on our next stage. So this is going to be a, sadly, a little lackluster. I'm still in and I don't have control surfaces. Oh no. Yep, I messed this one up. Alright. Let's see if we can make up. I'm trying to keep the gimbal correct. Right now we're having a difficult time with it. That was not what I wanted to have happen. I didn't think about the fact that when we launched all of those things off, we no longer had a control surface for anything. I also didn't think about the fact that these were not set up correctly. So right now this should be fine and correct, and yep, here we go. Now we can start our turn. So we're fine. Apoapsis is at 47. Still have plenty of fuel. Should be okay. So we're going to try to get it going. There we are. Alright. So once that hits 70,000, we cut. And we wait, and then we start it again. And that's just so you're not fighting the atmosphere. Alright, we're going to do prograde, and we're going to cut. Warp. It's the same process for most of our other launches. You warp to a point above 70,000, just so that way you're out of atmosphere when you're burning, and you're not fighting against the atmosphere, having all of that drag against you. Alright, there we go. So 70,000, and we're going to keep it at 30, which is a good point to not increase our apoapsis too much. We are trying to get to the moon, which is over there. So hopefully, if we do this, the moon will come into orbit. And what we are going to do is right-click on it, hit set target. And what that's going to do is once we get our apoapsis to cross over the point where the moon goes by, we're going to start to get intersection points that will pop up. And we'll see those once it happens. So it looks like we have too much of a side movement. Turn your SAS off and on again. Yeah, we have too much of a side movement, so our apoapsis is coming quickly to us. Go ahead and give us an increase again. There we go. Want to make sure it's 30 seconds away. If you need to, you can get off of it. You will want to get off of prograde at some point and do it yourself, because the prograde will just keep looking at the apoapsis, and once you get close enough to it, it'll kind of go to a point where it's just flat. It's not what you want. Now, we didn't do a perfect launch, so this stage is going to be cut early, and we're going to move on to our next stage. That's not what we would want to have happen, but with a non-perfect launch, this is what's going to happen. So, it's sad, but it happens. So we'll probably get a flyby of the moon. We probably won't get an orbit around the moon, and that's okay. We're learning from our mistakes and just... Alright. So now we can look back at our prograde and wait for 30 seconds. And you can see we're not burning much fuel using this stage, and that's why I put it on there. It's great for a vacuum. It's not great for atmosphere. So using that that rocket, or the that rocket that we're using is great for atmosphere, or great for vacuum, not great for atmosphere. It will use not much fuel for the thrust that it gives you, and that's what you want. You want something that, while in the vacuum, doesn't use much fuel, but gives you the thrust that you need. And you can see our orbit is slowly increasing, and it's about to turn into an actual orbit. And at this point, we can decrease our thrust and increase our time, because once you hit a certain point, your apoapsis is going to blow away from you, and that's what you want. So now, there it is. What we're looking for is you can just increase your thrust all the way. We're going to burn our apoapsis into a point that's really far away from us. And you can just go ahead and have your apoapsis and periapsis. And once our apoapsis crosses over this point, we'll be able to see it. We don't need our periapsis anymore. Although keeping our periapsis around 70,000 will give us a very good re-entry, but if we create an orbit around the moon, it's not going to matter, because we're going to have to do an entirely new burn to get us back in, and that periapsis will no longer matter. We can get rid of the periapsis and put on the apoapsis. Watch it increase away from us. And it does so very slowly. You can see that we're basically sideways, and our periapsis won't increase much when we're sideways like this, and that's fine. Prograde just means increasing your orbit size. Retrograde means decreasing your orbit size. So you want to do prograde the entire time, and that's going to increase your orbit away from you. You can see our apoapsis is quite a bit from us. That's what we're looking for. Now, we're not going to be able to do many maneuvers like this. One thing we can do in apoapsis, once we get far enough away, there's different parts of Kerbin. There's low orbit, then there's high orbit. So once we're far enough away, we'll be able to do high orbit science and high orbit EVAs and high orbit other science and all that stuff. All right, we can cut our fuel. So what we're seeing now is the intersection points. So at our current orbit, this giant, elliptical orbit, these would be the intersection points for us. But we don't have enough fuel to change our intersection point. If we were to do that, I'd be using these ones, which is radial out and radial in. That would change this orbit from here, and it would start moving it to the right and to the left. One thing we can do is keep increasing our orbit like this until we get one of these intersection points to come over to us. Okay. So what we're going to see is once these 2 points meet, we're going to see that we end up going into the moon's orbit. Number 2 has to meet number 2. There we go. So now you can see that we're going to be going into the moon's sphere of influence. And that's on the way back. And then you can see it's going to catapult us right into Kerbin. What we can actually do is you can time warp to a certain point away from it. We're going to go ahead and time warp. And we're actually going to go ahead and slow down right here. The reason for that, we're actually going to do the M, go back in. We're going to go ahead and do an EAV. Okay. And run a crew observation. Now we're in high orbit of Kerbin. See that right there? That's going to give us a run crew observation. I always forget that you have to do a crew observation. So we're in high orbit of Kerbin. That means the crew observation is going to work for us here. It's going to be different from the low orbit. There we go. 40 science for that. Now we can go ahead and hit B to board again. Run the science observation. We can see it's another 108 science. Pretty sure crew observation is the same. Yeah. So you don't technically have to EVA, but you can. So now that we have that, we've time warped to the point. So we're going to time warp to another point closer, just so that we can get this out of the way. Now, I don't think I'll have enough fuel to do this. Unfortunately, just due to the fact that we had a bad launch. We're going to go ahead and speed this up manually. We can just do a flyby, which is fine. It gives us the ability to do more science, which we're going to do the more science in. So what we're time warping for is once we get into the sphere of influence, our nav balls change. So we can watch this. So see how the nav ball changes? All of our points moved, because now we're in the nav ball is now directed at the moon. What we can actually do is burn retrograde. And from here, run the crew observation, because we're in high orbit of the moon, right? 148 science, and we can do the science, so run science survey. Boom, 198 science. So if we bring this back to the Kerbin successfully, we will have pulled in 198 extra science. What we're going to do is make sure that we don't use all of our fuel for this. We want to save quite a bit in order to get back to Kerbin. What we are going to do is try to get this into an. We're going to be watching our fuel reserves while also trying to get this into an. We can do this. One thing I am going to do is actually get closer to the. Because if you want to increase or decrease your periapsis or apoapsis, you want to be on the opposite side. So we want to decrease our periapsis, so we want, or apoapsis, so we want to get to the periapsis as close as we can. And vice versa. If we want to decrease our periapsis or increase, we want to get the apoapsis on the side. Now, I don't think, like I said, I don't think we'll be able to do this, because I don't think we'll know if we're going to be cutting it very close if we. Let's see. We can get it very, very close. Go. And boom. There we go. Now, science reward. We just got it. So if we go into mission control, go moon or bust, hit submit, boom. Got that science. Now, one small step, land on the surface of the first dibs, plant a flag, and the perfect circle. Establish an orbit around Kerbin with an AP and PE. Now, currently, we don't have the ability to, barely have the ability to get back to Kerbin. So now what we're going to do is just the opposite of what we just did. I think might be in low orbit of the moon. No, we're still in high orbit of the moon. So that's fine. We don't have enough fuel to get ourselves into orbit. I don't think low orbit it would be considered. So now that we're back and we have all of this, completed our science, and we just want to get our Kerbin periapsis down to under 70,000. So the best way to do that, just keep burning in retrograde to the moon, because we burnt in, or to burn in prograde to the moon. We burnt in retrograde. So now you can see that we have this intersection. I actually have too much of an intersection. We're going to go ahead and burn retrograde to the moon, which is going to increase our periapsis to Kerbin. Go ahead and burn, and it'll increase our periapsis. There we go. We went ahead and we want to have it pretty darn close. So we're going to go ahead and time warp to pretty close to our re-entry. There we go. All right. Now, as I said before, we want to make sure that our burn, our re-entry point, isn't too steep, but we also want to make sure that it's not shallow. Because essentially, if you're too shallow, what happens is skipping. If you can skip off the atmosphere, which increases your burn and your drag even more. It's actually something that can happen. You can literally skip off the atmosphere of the planet and be rejected outwards if you're going too fast and you're too shallow. But we're going to go ahead and burn right here. And then again, we're just going to go ahead and time warp to a point where we're back into the relative influence of the atmosphere, because we're going to use the rest of our fuel to just slow us down once we're in atmosphere. And that's just to make sure that we can get there safely. Now, I do have a heat shield, so I'm not too worried about our speed and our heat, but it still doesn't hurt to do that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and burn. We're not going to decrease the speed very much because of the type of thing we have on the back. So once that fuel's out, we're going to let it go. There we go. We've got a heat shield, so we should be fine at re-entry. And we're over water, so we're going to get the splashdown as well. And we can run the same crew observations and science while we're in the water. Which I think I can run science here. Yep, just increase our science because we hadn't done it. And atmosphere of Kerbin water. There's a difference between being atmosphere of Kerbin water and being in Kerbin water, so you can do all of your stuff. Yep. Launched all of our parachutes, and go. You can see atmosphere of Kerbin water. Once we hit Kerbin water, we can do more. See, ground is fast approaching, and our parachutes are not working. There they go. What I wanted. That one goes at 2,000. This one should go at 1,000. You can already see it's that one parachute's decreasing our surface speed. You can change when these deploy just by clicking on them and clicking settings and changing out. There you go. That's going to decrease our speed by quite a bit. Yeah, 9 meters a second. The heat shield's 20 meters a second, so we probably could have only used one, but just in case, you want to make sure that you're using two. Once you add on the science and the heat shield, because the heat shield's kind of heavy. So now that we're going to be splashed down, here we go. Our first splashdown. Boop. Run crew observation. Boom. 207 science, and run environment survey. 212 science. Alright. Hit escape. Cover vessel. Confirm. Boom. Look at that. Our first moon orbit. Our first splashdown. And a ton of science. So now, we go to the mission control. We can grab the science for this. Confirm. Over and out. You can see the perfect circle is just this orbit. AP and PE each should be 99. 1. That's 100 science right there. So if we go to our research and development, we can actually just go ahead and grab pretty much everything here. Power launchers, this is next stage of tier 2. This is just the next stage of launchers. So we can do medium orbital rockets, which are just gigantic rockets. That's 230 science, so we might as well just knock out the rest of our tier 1 science. Basic docking, power management, monopropellant drives. This is all stuff that's just for like, all satellites. Light aviation is going to be for planes and all that stuff. I don't particularly care about that right now. That's just great for like flying around Kerbin, doing all those different things. Tiny engines will be the next one that we do. That's great for small probes, exploration probes. So right now we can do a bunch of different satellites, and satellites are great for transmitting data back to Kerbin. So if we do, actually we can do that. So if we go ahead and go to the vehicle assembly building. Now we didn't save that last vid, which no, it's saved by itself. We're gonna go ahead and good. I'm glad it saved it. Very glad it saved it. All right. So what we're actually going to do right now is just make a vehicle. Well, actually, we're just going to go ahead and use that original vehicle. Go ahead and load it in. Even though this is the one that's staged for the moon circle, we're going to go ahead and make some changes to it. The one thing that I want to do is just add in some actual stabilizers. So these guys are way too small. These guys are medium-sized. We want to go ahead and add the medium-sized in just because the mass of our vehicle has increased. So since we have the big ones on there, we can actually just put small ones on the inside, because inside vehicle will be more out of atmosphere and will be less mass. And so since it's less mass, you don't have to worry. One thing you also could add is you could add in the stabilizer. So if we go into air, this one. There's one. So you've got a radial environment survey. You don't really need that. Have the regular environment survey. It's just less mass, but still allows you to do stabilizer. Here we go. Small reaction wheel. You can take a small reaction wheel, which will help you stabilize your vehicle. But we just don't need that. We're gonna do this guy. We're gonna go ahead and save it. This will be saved as, let's see, moon orbiter. There we go. The workspace. Oh no. That's file name. Workspace will be orbiters, and vehicle name will be moon. That way we can just keep track of everything. Go ahead and save that. This guy we're going to use to try and create a perfect orbit around Kerbin. Go ahead and launch this guy. And launch, skip countdown. I forgot to set these up again. That's fine. But now that we have these giant fins on, you'll be able to see them go. So once we hit 100 meters a second, we're going to start our gravity turn. Right there. And you can see they're working. So go out to about 90. And you can look up what a perfect orbit is on any wiki or anything like that. And it's usually once you hit 100 meters a second, go to about 90 degrees, and then just kind of, after a bit, let yourself let it just do a gravity turn, which is just click at the prograde and it'll gravity turn itself. So keep a track of your apoapsis. That stage is done. Moving on to the next stage. I don't know why it's not activating automatically. It should be. It's an annoyance I will have to figure out later. But again, we're just going to keep track of our apoapsis. And this is a much better burn than what I did last time. So we're going to have a lot more leftover delta V. Delta V is just a change in thrust that you can have. And once you get really into Kerbin, I'm not one of those people. You keep track of all of your delta V, and that'll tell you when you can do certain burns and stuff like that. I don't keep track of my delta V. I just know that we're going to have enough thrust to set up our orbit around Kerbin. I could even use this stage to get us all the way to the moon, like I wanted to, just because I know that we have enough delta V. And your delta V is right here. It's 1,712. I just know, just based off of like playing this game and instinct, I could have enough delta V to get us to the moon, with our last stage getting us an orbit around the moon. So. Alright, we're out of atmosphere, so now we can do more of a change. those small thrusters or small fins that I had apparently weren't enough to get us the change that I needed. So we're going to get our apoapsis just a little bit above 70. The same thing we always do. Go ahead and time warp to the point. And just keep it at 30 seconds. Now, for the thing that we needed, we had to have our apoapsis at about 90. So what I'm going to do is just increase our apoapsis quite a bit. So we hit 90. And then we're going to be looking at our, because we need our apoapsis at about 110 and our periapsis at about 90, so anywhere in between there. So what we're going to do is just try to get our apoapsis up to something like 90. I'm just going to burn it and take it off of SAS. Basically, just want to take it off of prograde. I don't know how to take it off of prograde without just selecting SAS a couple times. Just double click it. Not enough. You can see that our seconds is changing. We want that. We want it to go up to about 30. So when it gets lower, just increase your degrees, your pitch. And you can just keep training its pitch. Now we're going to go into our apoapsis is about 90-ish. Alright, so I don't have enough delta V to get us to the moon, but it's still a lot more than I had last time. It's good. Alright. Again, it's just going to be knocking that 30. There we go. Increasing our thrust every time. We're just going to get our apoapsis to about 90. We're going to be going for. We're going to run out of fuel. Blow through the stages. Apparently it wasn't active because I didn't click space again just to go through stages. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and go to prograde again. It's just going to help us get into more of an orbit. Our apoapsis is pretty close. And one thing we can do is once we get into orbit, we can just increase our apoapsis from going to our periapsis and vice versa. Just keep increasing it until we get to like between 90 and 110 on both. So I'm not too worried about it. Here we go. We're about to get our periapsis on here. And connected. Now we've got our periapsis. I'm just going to go ahead and watch these two. So we want our apoapsis to hit right there, right? Between 90 and 110. So then we're going to go ahead and time warp to here, keeping it at prograde. It's not at prograde right now because we're time warping. It doesn't do that. We get close, drop it down to 1. It'll move itself. Point to prograde. Watch your periapsis. You want to make sure that your apoapsis is really, really close because you're not increasing your apoapsis. You want to increase your periapsis. To do that, you burn prograde at your apoapsis, increases your periapsis. Burning retrograde at your apoapsis, periapsis, versa. I said that a couple times, and I'll probably keep saying it, just in case you guys want to know how to do certain things. Yeah, we're going to increase our periapsis to between, I think that should be correct, right? Between those two numbers. Perfect circle. 101. Sorry about that. Oh, I was incorrect with how much it was. Between 90 and 101. So back to map. Our apoapsis and periapsis. So we want to go ahead and burn retrograde to get our periapsis down. We're going to try to hit it at like 95. Small burn. Very, very, very small burn. 5. Then we're going to time warp to our periapsis. Right. Time warping to our periapsis. 2, burning retrograde at our periapsis will decrease our apoapsis. Alright, good. Give it a small burn. And... what? Apoapsis, 97. Periapsis, 95. That should give us perfect circle. Perfect circle. 99 in 101. I am just not paying attention. I'm doing this. So 99 in 101. So both of them have to be at 100. Okay. Alright. Back to here. Kerbin, periapsis. And right-clicking on these locks them into place. Time warp to point, prograde, because neither of these are at 90. So each one we're going to get to 100. Prograde burn at a periapsis will increase our apoapsis. Let me get to prograde first. Time warp again. So it's going to be very, very small burns on either side. All we have to worry about. Right there. I'll burn to our apoapsis at 100. There we go. Close to. To be exact. Time warp to our apoapsis. Time warp. Again, keeping it at prograde, which is increase the size. It's automatically going to turn. It's just how things work. When you're time controlling or time warping, it doesn't stick to want. Alright. 99. There we go. Done. Alright, we go to mission control. And hit the perfect circle, submit. Through all this stuff. And science. Now, orbit Kerbin with a PE of 70 to 150 and an apoapsis is 300 to 8,400. So basically, this just wants us to grab a weird elliptical shape. And one thing we can do is just go to our periapsis, already at what it should be, time warp to the point, and we have enough fuel to actually do this. Which is why I'm going back and forth between the control center, because some of the stuff we can do at the same time, it just doesn't give us the mission at the same time. Alright, so we're going to go prograde burn and increase our apoapsis and watch our periapsis. We just have to increase it quite a bit. Like past 350, I think, is what it said. No, we've done all the science we can do right here, so I'm not too worried about doing science. There we go. Done. Oh, we can turn to mission control. Mission control. Go ahead and grab its eccentric. And just go through that. Another 100 science, and now we don't have anything else. The next one is going to be landing on the moon. We got first dibs, which is plant a flag in any mayor. Alright. Go back to your tracking station. Roll your vehicle. Go back to M. Where we're going to go, it's just time warp to point. We're going to burn retrograde at our apoapsis, decrease our periapsis to what we need. It's going to be basically just intersection of Kerbin. Come on. Burn. Like so. There we go. And I do kind of want to hit inside of the sands, so what we're actually going to do is burn prograde, because the Earth Kerbin is spinning, so you want to make sure that you're... There we go. That should be good. So we're going to go ahead and time warp to point. Boom. And our periapsis is below 70,000. So what I'm doing is just getting us inside, and then we're going to try and create a burn to where we're still going to be on the desert. You have to remember that the Kerbin is spinning, so once you hit a certain point, it's going to slow down. Alright, so we're going to go retrograde. There we go. There we go. Alright, and you can watch your periapsis if you want to. I didn't realize we were in atmosphere this early. It's going to increase our heat quite a bit because we're in atmosphere for quite a while. Our periapsis is going to decrease very, very quickly. Basically, I'm just trying to get us into another point on this map, whether it be the water. I've already done the water, I've already done the mountains, so if I can do the desert or the lowlands, I'd be fine for science. So right now, if we take a look at this guy, right-click, you can see that we are atmospheric Kerbin water. You can run a crew observation, it's already been done, already completed, so we can get rid of that. As you're flying over, it'll give you the different locations. So right now we're on Kerbin water. Soon we'll be over Kerbin other things. So right click and Kerbin Highlands, run observation. It's already been done. We go ahead and increase our thrust. This is going to burn away Kerbin Mountains. Yep, that's burnt. It's fine. Go ahead and detach. Yep. Science. Okay, that's already been done. Yeah, Kerbin Mountains has been done for science and for crew observation, and you can just watch this as you go through the different things. It'll tell you what it is. You can just hit your science and your crew observation when you're above the different things. Kerbin Mountains. Have they really already been done? Seriously? Now, I haven't hit the parachutes yet because the parachutes will slow us down, and I just don't want to slow down yet. We're not particularly close to the ground, so I'm not too worried about it. And we are still slowing down just due to the atmosphere. Now, we're not going to hit the deserts like I wanted, but that's perfectly fine. Urban Highlands. Really? We've already done this? No, I already did this. We can go ahead and repair suits just because, got time to speed us up. Yep, one parachute deployed. Next parachute deployed. I wonder if they fixed the parachute issue, where it wouldn't deploy or wouldn't calculate. In the old Kerbin, there was an issue where it wouldn't calculate that. What is that over there? Is that just a giant rock or something? Weird. Alright. So, you know, we could do science break? What? No way the science broke. Science broke? Okay, there we go. I got 4 science from crew observation. And now we can, since we don't have crew observation here, go just let go. Run a surface survey. Surface surveys you can do at different points. I'm wondering if the atmosphere of Kerbin is just atmosphere of Kerbin no matter where. And you have to be down at a different spot. The rest of the stuff. Who knows? We'll see. Yeah, okay. Experiment for that is already in storage. Okay. We're just going to go ahead and get back on our vehicle. B for board, escape, so confirm. Boom. It's done. And then we're going to go to the easy development because we have some science. 241 to be exact. So we could technically do medium orbital rockets, but we just don't need it just yet. Let's go ahead with light aviation and tiny engines because we can do that. So then we're going to go ahead to mission control. We've got first dibs and one small step. So now we are actively trying to land. So in our next video, we are going to build a rocket that hopefully will land us on the moon. And so for now, we're going to call this one. I hope you folks enjoyed this video. If you did, come and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to keep up to date on all the random videos that I come up with and the satisfactory videos that come out every week, go and hit the subscribe button and the bell notification. And as always, in the next one, lads and lasses, good one.